This is an open invitation. All of you people that are watching this at home, you really should come down here and watch what we go through for you, for your enjoyment at home. Hi, my name is Suz Montgomery, and I'm your host of Schmooze with Suz, and we've been doing this a long time. But for surprisingly, I don't think I've had Trudy Arriaga on the show in how many years?
Gosh, it's probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years maybe.
Was it that long? Okay, well, welcome back.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
You know, I was driving over today and I'm sitting there thinking the first time, you'll probably not remember this, the first time I met you, you were down on Santa Clara. You were director of curriculum?
Director of Student Support Services.
That's what it was. Okay, so you got all the detentions and...
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Boy, what a difference, huh?
What
well,
a job.
Welcome back.
Thank
Let's
you.
find out what you've been up to.
Wow. Well, first off, it's really good to see you.
I'm so glad to see you.
Good to
Long-time
be
friend. I never
Yes,
felt like I was
yes.
really your employee, but then again, your employees never felt like employees to you, and it felt like family.
Thank you.
You really made it a comfortable place to work.
Thank you.
We loved coming. You know, we weren't nervous when you came to visit us.
I would hope not.
No, we weren't. It was like in the, previous days maybe it would have been, but not with you. You made it very comfortable for us, and you were supportive.
Thank you.
Yeah. How long were you in the district?
I was in the district for 36 years as an employee, but another 13 years as a student. So
36 years?
36 years.
So you went to school for teaching, education?
I started my position in the district as a paraeducator. So I was a bilingual paraeducator right out of high school. And actually a teacher said to me, "You'd be a good teacher." And I got married very young and was having children young and hadn't gone to college, and I'm very easily influenced, so off I went.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where it all started. I was a bilingual paraeducator.
Sheridan Way?
No, I started at Elmhurst School,
Okay.
Loma Vista School. Did most of my work as a paraeducator in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, and worked with a lot of the families who were Spanish-speaking families who also happened to have a deaf child.
So you picked up the Spanish language in high school? You took classes?
In high school, and I also studied for 1 year right after college, or right after high school, in Mexico. Mm-hmm.
Wow, so you were literally a native speaker then, after that. Well, never thinking that you were going to be using it.
Never knowing, yeah, you just never know.
So when did you decide, you just decided you liked teaching, or you said easily influenced. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I think it probably was what I always wanted to do, but I hadn't really thought about my next steps of going to college and getting a degree and getting a credential and having a young family. That was not in the cards immediately, but the fact that someone saw something in me really made all the difference. So I'm a strong believer in not letting that moment go by where you don't say to someone, "You'd be great," because sometimes
Well, you've always
that's all
done
it
that,
takes.
though. I've watched you do that numerous times over the years.
Thank you.
You're so good at the encouraging.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it just comes naturally to you.
I think
Parents encouraged you as well?
Absolutely. You know, I always say I hit the jackpot when it came to parents. Just both
You
my
picked
mother
well?
and father. Yeah, both my mother and father just encouraged us and loved us unconditionally, and thought we were something special. And boy, every child deserves that.
You were.
I don't know about that, but they
Yeah,
thought
your
we were.
sister and your brother, I know them both. Yes, definitely. But you're the only one that went into education.
I actually, my sister Gail, who you may not know, was a teacher, a longtime elementary school teacher. And then Tony actually taught in her very early years, and then when she had a family, she stopped teaching. And my brother Gary actually has a teaching credential, never used it, but has it. So we all really went into education.
So who did the modeling in the family? Dad?
My father and my mother. My mother was a teacher too. My mother taught at Ventura High School.
I
And
didn't
Ventura
know that.
College. Yes, she did.
No wonder she's a lifelong learner.
That's right.
Wow. And your dad,
And my father.
they named, what is it? Didn't they name?
The gymnasium. Ventura
yes.
High School Gymnasium is named after my dad.
And that is,
Bob
now
Tuttle.
that gymnasium, somebody told me, maybe you can tell me the truth, because there's a lot of speculation where that gymnasium was a project from the WPA project. Don Haskell told me that.
Well, if Don Haskell said it, it must be true.
Well, he's not here to fight back.
Yeah.
He was my student for
history
years.
teacher
You
at
had
Ventura High
Haskell.
School. I had Mr. Haskell.
And then in turn, Haskell was my student.
I remember
He
that.
was really sassy in my class. I don't know about, how he was as a teacher for you.
Yeah.
He seemed, every once in a while, I talk to him. A lot of my students have died, right? Obviously, because they're 85 to 105. But when I have them as students, and I still talk to some of them in my head all the time, and some of them, like Haskell, will be over here, he goes, shouldn't say that,
Right,
that kind of a thing. Yeah. But you went all the way through, so you started teaching. And when did you get in administration? Why did you decide to go into that field?
Honestly, Suze, it's the same story. I was teaching at Balboa Middle School, and Gloria Noble, who was an assistant principal, and in those days, in the 80s, women could be deans of girls and maybe an elementary principal, but you did not see women in executive cabinet level positions, high school principal positions, no.
In the 80s?
In the 80s.
This is the 1880s, I think you're referring to, right?
I wish. It was the 1980s.
That's pretty sad.
And the assistant principal, who was the dean of girls at Balboa, said to me, have you ever thought about being an administrator? And I had never thought about being an administrator. And again, I said, okay, if somebody saw something in me, off I went. And that's when I got my master's and my ed admin credential, and then pretty immediately became the assistant principal at De Anza Middle School.
And then you went on for a doctorate?
I did. My family, my young family, they were used to me being gone every Wednesday night as I worked on my master's. So I just said, I'm going to keep going and not tell anybody. So I did. I just kind of kept going. And about 2 years into the doctoral program, I revealed to my daughters, well, actually, I finished my master's a couple years back.
You know what's amazing about you, because I've been watching Facebook, and you've been posting some new stuff that you've been doing, and we'll get into that in a minute. But on there I saw a photo of you and Laurel. Now, Laurel Dawes started her career here at VACE, and she was, I think she was doing, She
was driving the mobile van.
She had we had the old van.
The old van. I
And
was
she
principal
did
at Sheridan Way, and she would come in that van.
And the ESL she did.
The ESL.
Correct. And and then she came, when she was over here, I met her years ago with Barry and Denise, and I said to her, is this really what your dream is? And she goes, I don't know. But she wasn't definitely saying no.
Right.
And I looked at her, and and she'll tell you this was the weirdest thing. She was over at our house recently for dinner. I go, do you remember what I said to you? No, of course you didn't. And I said, you're going to be the superintendent of this district someday. And she goes, no. And I go, yes. I said, you need to keep on going. And you know what? I really do see her in that role at some point down the road. Yeah. We have a new superintendent. So you've been gone for how many years as superintendent? 3. It's been 3 years. Wow, that went fast. Yeah. Okay, so do you miss it?
I miss it very much. And here's what I miss. Just coming here today and getting to see the people. That's what I miss. I miss the people and the connections and being part of something that was great and grand. There are aspects that I don't miss. I don't miss the 24/7 aspect of being a superintendent, which is what it deserves.
Does that mean, like, if there was a crisis, you would be called and you had to show up?
I would. Middle of the night, I'd get calls from the police department, I'd get calls from the fire department, and off I would go to, to the fire that was at Ventura High School, or to get on the phone to call HR that one of our employees had just been arrested, or to, there were many middle of the night.
You don't really think about that as, you think about the average maybe community members thinks, okay, the superintendent, wow, that's really great. She's in charge of all the schools and all the teachers and support staff. And she goes around and shakes hands and hugs people. But you really don't think about the messy stuff. And that's part of the job too.
Yeah.
Did you realize that when you took the job on?
I had no idea. I'm going to be honest with
answer.
you. I had no idea.
Wow.
But every moment of the job was just a privilege.
Well, you're so even-keeled. And I think that was one of the best attributes that you brought to the job. And again, the parenting, your parents, models, and you're just evenly tempered. I mean, I can't see somebody that, in that position that wouldn't be, or if you can't learn that. You have to have instincts to be, the instinctual knowledge of doing the right thing all the time. Or not, if you didn't even have that knowledge, questioning yourself and then reverting back to that and going, okay, that's the way it should be. What would my mom do? I do a lot of what my mom, I do what would my mom do outside of the cooking aspects. My mother couldn't cook to save her life. But other than that, my mom with advice and, just being there, I think. So what are you doing now? You're not riding herd and answering the phone in the middle of the night?
No, I'm not doing that, but I am busier than I've ever been.
But you're retired.
But it's a different kind of busy. It's a busy that is on my time, and it's a busy that is, I just get to pick and choose what I love to do. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm at Cal Lutheran full-time, and I teach in the Graduate School of Education. And I'm the chair of the Ed Leadership Department, so I love being able to teach at the master's and doctoral level. People like Laurel Dawes, who just got her doctorate, I get to be a part of that. So I get to be a part of teaching the emerging leaders of tomorrow. So
what do you teach people like that? I mean, is that a skill set, or is that a lot of instinct as well? How does that work?
Right. Well, their program is varied, but the classes that I teach are classes on leadership, classes on equity and access, classes on, right now I'm teaching a course that is the historical, social, and political aspects of education today, so really looking at the changing times and controversial issues of today.
Oh, that would be
it's
fun.
A very fun class. We should have you as a guest speaker.
Oh, I would love to be that.
Yeah.
I would love to be a guest speaker. Exactly what my students are thinking today because of my age of my students and how they're still in the mix and how important that is.
Sure.
It's lifelong learning. And you're teaching people that are going to be lifelong educators, hopefully, and they're going to be lifelong learners as well. I think that's something that, I think Jerry Brown, when he kicked adult ed to the curb, what was it, about 5 years ago or something like that, and defunded a lot of our programs, I was pissed. It was kind of like, how can you do that to the people that deserve to have this? And now we have Newsom, who, when we met, said, oh, I'm all about lifelong education.
Great. And
so all three of our not educators who are elected, Monique Lebone, Hannah Beth Jackson, and Julia Brownlee, are pro-adult education and lifelong learning. And I work with them in public policy, and now they're writing bills for seniors. Now, I don't think of you as a senior.
Well, you should, because I am.
Because I met you when you were not a senior. So
but I am. I get that discount at the movies.
Do you use it really?
Of course I do.
My husband does because I always forget to ask. I'm not really good at that kind of discount thing. But when you teach these classes like the leadership, how can you, and if you have a student that would be, now you're teaching in this graduate program, that that just isn't going to be able to do it, how do you deliver the message like, you might want to think about going into plumbing?
Yeah, I have had that difficult conversation with people, and if someone doesn't love the role of leadership, if someone doesn't love education, it is absolutely not the place for you. And so, having that conversation that if you're not about building relationships, if you're not about equity and access, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle in leadership. And so the good news is Most people would never want to be a high school principal. So don't be one. You know, there's no failure in not being an outstanding high school principal. Most people would never be successful at that job. So find your match and make sure that you don't mismatch yourself. It's not fair to you as an individual. It's also not fair to an organization. So we have those discussions.
That would be tough. I mean, because you know, obviously know just by speaking with them or having them in your class what their skill sets are, and about accessibility.
Yeah.
But then when you obviously go, oh, there's Fred over there, Fred. Fred just doesn't seem to be engaged here today, or is he not engaged with the whole program?
Yeah.
That's an interesting discussion to have, and that's part of your job. I mean, what's the best part of your job now?
The best part of my job at the university is really watching the emerging leaders move into leadership and be really strong, great leaders. And I don't mean to continue to talk about Laurel.
Yeah, let's pick on Laurel.
Yeah, it's just a good example of just watching Laurel go through the doctoral program and watching her lead Cabrillo Middle School and knowing that the future is hers. But she's one of hundreds that I could talk about. That's the best part, is to see them as the assistant principal at a middle school, or in many cases, Jason Poplinski was my student, and he's now superintendent of CME. Christine McCloskey, Christine Walker, superintendent of Wainimi. So to see some of them who are in superintendent positions, that's
and
nothing
you knew
better
them
than
when
that.
they were kids.
Yeah, nothing better.
It's like having 1,000 kids and watching them grow up.
Yeah.
What a fascinating thing. Now you're talking about kids, your kids. You've got grandkids?
I do. I have two
I can't believe this. Okay.
beautiful grandbabies. Rayo is a student at Will Rogers Elementary School in the dual immersion program. And I cannot say enough about the education he's receiving from the Will Rogers staff, and just his unbelievable ability to speak fluently in 2 languages. And so we're grateful as a family to Will Rogers. And then our little Sophia is 3, and watch out, here she comes. And she's a Spitfire. Yeah.
Good. I like those kids.
Yeah. They're both the loves of my life, and really all I do now. I kind of see the world through their eyes in terms of what I want for them and what I hope for them and the future for them. And so if I can do anything to impact how their lives will be, that's what matters to me now.
It's an interesting time of life. I mean, when you look back in reflection, my granddaughter, who went through all of Ventura Unified School District, and her husband did as well. Both of them went to Ventura High School, and they got married a while back, and they are living, he's in robotic sciences, and he's going to the University of Ulm. He's in Germany for a year. Robotic engineering. Wow. I mean, this comes out of Ventura Unified.
Right.
So we're doing it right.
Yes.
I mean, you know, and he was a late bloomer. There's a lot of kids that are late bloomers. You don't give up on them. But I was on the phone with them this morning. They called from Germany, and they've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And this FaceTime stuff is like magic, right?
It's magic,
It's just, you know, you can stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
And I think back when she was that small, and then when her mother was that small. This is a strange age for us. I mean, when we look back, and you've got like thousands of these. I mean, do all your old students stay in touch with you? Do they call?
A lot. I have a lot of old students that stay in touch, and interestingly enough, old students have become friends. And so, you know,
isn't that a little odd to have a student become a contemporary?
Yeah.
Does that
I
feel?
mean, Sophia, our new city council member, she was mine.
She was yours?
Yeah, you bet.
She's District 1, our district.
Yeah.
I'll be
I mean, just to watch old students, and someone was just telling me their husband has had some health issues, and she was talking to me about the doctor and said, oh, by the way, the doctor said he was your student at Tiana. I just loving. I love that. I love
It totally
those stories.
cracks me up, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't think about you don't think about your age.
Yeah.
You really don't,
Yeah.
unless you see a photograph of yourself, and it's like,
And then you start to
then you
get
go,
it.
oh my God,
Oh my goodness.
that's my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not me. Well, back to CLU. So that's an accelerated program, correct?
Correct.
How does that work? I don't know enough about it. So for example, somebody wants to matriculate into CLU from Ventura Unified.
Right.
So how do they do this?
Well, I mean, Cal
Besides
Lutheran,
filling
yeah,
out
they have their
admissions.
undergraduate program, and so
Okay.
of course, a student enters Cal Lutheran as they would any other university. I'm in the Graduate School of Education, so I'm in the graduate
Okay, so
program.
you got the grads.
And our students all have bachelor's degrees and credentials. And so their opportunity is come in and work on their master's and their administrative credential, which is a year program. It's 4 semesters, though. We start in the summer, and it's 40% online and 60% face-to-face. And I believe that the face-to-face is critically important.
Oh, yeah.
I know there are a lot of online programs now, and it's not my role to judge, but my personal opinion is that if you're going to be an administrator, a leader, there has to be face-to-face, because that's
how
what's
you're
going to
going to
matter.
do the job.
Yeah. And then the doctoral program is a 3-year program for students who already have a master's and are wanting to move forward in a
And that's an
doctoral program.
accelerated program as well?
Yeah, well, it's 3 years.
Okay, so now at Ventura Unified, your building, I'm looking, I was in there the other day, and I'm looking at, and I'm thinking about what a critical coup it was when you snagged that building.
That was a good one.
You want to tell that story?
That's a good story.
That's a great story.
So as you remember, we were on Santa Clara,
Well, you were sitting on top of each other.
sitting on top of each other. We had one meeting room, and we had arcade, which was half of the district.
Correct.
All of classified human resources were over at the arcade office, and so as the new superintendent, it was clear to me that it was the most dysfunctional way of having a district come together with the support services that you provide to the school sites, which is the district level. And so at this time, the city also wanted us out of downtown Ventura. That for some reason they didn't like the bus barn and our dilapidated building being a part.
They wanted to sell the property to a developer. Let's tell the truth.
So we did sell that property, and it doesn't go unnoticed that it's still sitting there.
Yes,
and that's been
because it's a really crappy
yeah,
design that the people that want to build there,
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
Over 15 years ago. It was a
Oh
long
my
time
God,
ago.
it's been that long,
Yeah.
really?
Because it was in the early years of my superintendency. And so we started looking, and I heard that Paul Orfila, the founder of Kinko's, was selling the building where we currently are, and I stalked Paul Orfila, literally. I tried to figure out where I could see him, where I could find him, and finally found him.
You don't look like a stalker.
Oh, I was with Paul Orfila, he'll tell you that. And he was on Alessandro in that black building that is still there. And he was on the top floor, that's where he was. And a few of us, I think it was Debbie Golden and Chris Bergstrom and I, we went to the top of that floor and went into that office and said, and he happened to be walking through the office, and he said, "I'm Paul Orfila." And so that was the beginning of a friendship, a relationship that lasted for a couple years, and working with him.
Discount, didn't you?
Unbelievable. Every time we met, we'd meet for lunch, and he'd take it down $1 million. Well, what can you afford? Can you afford, so he'd take it down another $1 million. And so finally, and Joe Richards was instrumental. Joe and I would go to the lunches together.
Oh, he would grind anybody.
Yeah. So that last meeting, I remember where we were. We were at, what's the restaurant that is on Palm, that Didier, 71
Palm.
71 Palm. We were at 71 Palm, and he finally made us an offer that we had already agreed. Joe had agreed that, and the board, of course, had supported. And so we said, sold, we're done. And I remember Paul Orfila said, it's got about $1 million worth of furniture. Do you want that too? Sold, we're done. So
Because that was the old Kinko's.
yeah,
Was that the
old
corporate
Kinko's
site?
Yep, that was the Kinko's headquarters in the United States, was right there.
Okay, and he was a Goleta kid, and so you took, so they moved Kinko's, I believe, to Texas? Well, tax advantages, yeah. Hello?
Yeah.
I remember
that's
when
the Paul
that
Orfila
was the
Kinko's
biggest
story.
coup
Yeah.
I remember thinking, and I never had, I never really thought about asking you face to face.
And we sold the Santa Clara and the arcade property for the same amount of money that we purchased the Stanley
Oh, I
property.
remember the number, because I never forgot, because I go, they stole it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Paul, good
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Wow, that was, but how old was the building on? Because I'm trying to remember.
That's a good question. I do not know the answer to that. I'm not sure.
When they
Susan.
raised some of the building, I know they found some artifacts. Well, downtown's full of
Yes.
smash artifacts. Every time you dig, you'll find something.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I walked in that building, I go, this is like this is the district offices, and I'm thinking to myself, mold.
Yeah.
And then I go, no, wait a minute, cigarettes. Joe Spirito. Remember? But he was our superintendent at the time, and he had the coffee can outside the back door, and I had a meeting with him. And I sat there, and it was the first time I had met him, and I looked at him, I go, are you smoking? He goes, are you asking me that? And I go, yeah, of course I'm asking you that. And he goes, yes, I smoke. And I go, that's really not good role modeling.
He would hide behind the palm tree, thinking no one could see him.
At the back door. Everybody saw him. I remember that was so hysterical. I bet you've got a zillion stories.
I do have a zillion stories.
Oh, we're going to have to go out for a drink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not at this point. So we're getting close to the end, but is there anything?
Let me tell you what else I'm doing, because one more thing
Oh,
that
good.
is super
Please.
exciting.
We've got a couple minutes left.
I co-authored a book right before I retired, and the book is Opening Doors. I co-authored with Randy Lindsay, and so since my retirement, I've been traveling across this nation talking about equity, and literally just about every week I'm in a different state.
I didn't know you did
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So
Can we get it on Amazon?
Yes, you can get it on Amazon.
Is it Kindle?
Opening Doors. No, it's not on Kindle. Published by Corwin, but the consultant work has just been so thrilling to be in districts across the United States.
Wow, add that to your CV.
Talking about equity.
That's a
and
big
access.
deal.
Yeah.
Now with our current administration, equity and access is all the more important.
Absolutely.
And we have to, and by your teaching leadership to tomorrow's leaders, we need you. We need you. I mean, I just look at what's going on, and it's despair. I'm so anguished every day. It's like another assault, really?
Right.
So,
Well, here's the good news. Whether I'm in Texas or Iowa or Missouri, I find that the educators in this nation get it, and they believe in it. And when they say all means all, they mean it. So that's the hopeful news.
I think it's because that's your nature, and that's the way you teach.
Thank you.
And you're a servant as well as I.
Thank you, Suz.
Thank you
What
for
a pleasure
coming
to
in,
get to be
Trudy.
with you.
God, what a treat. I haven't seen you in ages.
My pleasure.
Let's
Thanks, Suz.
go get that drink sometime.
All right.
And if you ever want to come down and watch us, you're more than welcome to. So look at the back, on the bottom of the screen. So if you want to come down, just nose around. It's kind of fun. We have fun, more fun off camera too. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.